Welcome students and friends to this another lecture. The topic is on your screen, Indian philosophy, general characteristics. So we are here concerned with these fundamental queries or the questions. What is Indian philosophy or darshan? Is it different from Western philosophy or Western concept of darshan or philosophy? What are the points of similarities and dissimilarities? Is knowledge important in Indian philosophical traditions or something else? Why Indian philosophy also known as Hindu philosophy? Sometimes it is called the Hindu darshan or Hindu philosophy. So in that context, we will also discuss what are the general characteristics of Indian philosophy, what are the sources of Indian philosophy, and so many questions may come to your mind. So we just take one by one. Another important aspect is the role of trees in Indian philosophy. Just because I begin with a picture of a banyan tree. The role of tree is very important in Indian philosophy. It is like Indian philosophy is like a banyan tree that has so many branches and nobody knows what is the roots. Roots are so strong that every branch becomes a root because it never detached itself from its original roots. So Indian philosophy is also divided into various branches or different types of schools of philosophy across the culture, across the eras, across the religion, across the communities, across the languages too. But the essence is same, the root is same. That's the beauty of Indian philosophy. Roots are deeper and stronger. Then branches, all the branches are all interconnected with one another. Then trees and forest also play a very important role because Gurukul system are the genesis of Indian philosophical thought. Upanishads were composed in the Gurukuls. And I mean today we see the continuity of that legacy. On your screen there are two pictures of Vishwabharati Shantiniketan, an institution based on the Gurukul model established by Nobel laureate Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. So even today you may see the continuity of that great traditions of ancient India. So the trees are associated with the intellectual journey. Gautam Buddha also attained enlightenment under a Bodhi tree, that is the banyan tree. Gautam Buddha just meditated for 6 years and after that he got enlightenment. It was a tree, Bodhi tree. And Gurukuls in the shades of the trees and Vanprastha ashram and trees, because you know that one of the Varnashram in Varnashram Vyavastha, Vanprastha ashram and Sannyas ashram, they are closely associated with the journey towards the forest. And some books are also associated in the Vedic literature is the Aranyakas. Aranyakas Granth means, Aranya means the forest. So these were the books specifically composed for the people who were dwelling in the forest or composed by those people who were living in the Vanprastha ashram. So forest and trees have very special role to play in Indian philosophy. Basic issues of philosophy. Some scholars call it Hindu philosophy, however non-Hindu systems are also included which are really critical of Hindu doctrines if we take the meaning of the term Hindu in a religious sense, because religion itself has a different meaning in Indian tradition. So here the term Hindu, if we take in strictly ritualistic or worshipping sense, then it depicts a particular religion or faith. Otherwise, it's a geographical term. So in that context, we will further discuss. Designated as darshana, which is generally translated as philosophy, but it really means intuitive vision. The intuitive vision consists of the wisdom about reality and the secrets of human life, both inner and outer. Sarv Darshan Sangrah, we have already mentioned in one of the lectures that it is the basic source of the schools of Indian philosophy by Madhvacharya during Krishnadev Rai's in South India, Vijayanagar Samraj reign. It proclaimed Indian philosophy is scripture based. It is often proclaimed. Yes, obviously, because Vedas are the basis of the Indian philosophy, but not Vedas entirely. The third level of the Vedic literature, that is Aranyakas, the beginning of questioning and curiosity, and Upanishads, the books of philosophical discourses. These are the beginning of the Indian philosophy. So that's why it's scripture based, but not in a strict sense that testimony is not the only evidence of knowledge. There are the 6 pramans and some other pramanas are also there, and on that basis 6 schools from Nastik, the Astik Darshan, and 3 schools from the Nastic darshans are also the part of Indian philosophy in a multidimensional ways of thinking. It contained both ritualistic and philosophical materials, like Purva Mimamsa developed its doctrines from the ritualistic portion, and Vedanta builds up from Upanishadic and Bhagavad Gita, the content from Bhagavad Gita. So one is based on the Karma Kanda, another is based on the Gyan Kanda. Classified as orthodox and heterodox system, we have already discussed it, Astik and Nastik Darshan. It believed in God or existence of God is one of the aspects of Indian philosophy, not the prime concern. Often we see in that context, if we call it just by the name of a religion, it is just one aspect of Indian philosophy. Entire Indian philosophy is not a religious philosophy. Or Bharatiya Darshan is not just a speculative thinking, but a search for truth rooted in life, experience, and liberation. The term darshana means vision or insight into reality, not mere reasoning but realization. There are three basic methods in Indian philosophy, how we reach to a theory or to a principle. One, the first principle is the Purva Paksha, that is the prior views. A philosopher takes the views of his opponent's case. Then secondly, Khandan, that is the refutation. Then he followed the refutation of the existing views with appropriate reasons and logical statements of examples. This means the criticism. And then thirdly, at third level, that is called Uttar Paksha. He establishes his own Siddhant by refuting the already Purva Paksha or prior views. Last of all, he establishes statements or proofs of his own position as subsequent views. That comes to be known as the theory. For example, Mahatma Buddha, Adi Shankaracharya, Charvaka, and critics of Charvaka, they all followed this system in a sequential way. Is it confined to Hindu philosophy? That's another question. Religion is solely based on the idea of God. So Hindu philosophy is just the part of Indian philosophy like Buddhist or Jain philosophy or other religious traditions. On another part, Indian philosophy denotes the philosophical speculations of all Indian thinkers, ancient or modern, Hindus and non-Hindus, theist or atheist. So if the term Hindu is taken in geographical sense of Indian or natives of Hind, then it would be true to call it Hindu philosophy, because in the past this nation is also known as the Hind. And even if you go to the Arab, the people of Arab, they will call you the Hindi because you belong to the Hindustan or the Hind. If it means followers of a particular faith or religion known as Hinduism, it would be misleading to call the Hindu philosophy. Madhvacharya presented in his book Sarva Darshan Sangrah the views of all, that is the Sarva, a school of philosophy including Hindus and Jains or other thinkers who were not religious in technical sense like Charvaka. Schools of Indian philosophy are based on atheist and theist only on the basis of their Vedic and non-Vedic roots, nothing to do with faith and belief in God. So, major characteristics of Indian philosophy. Number one is the spiritual and metaphysical orientation. Central concern of Indian philosophy is essentially metaphysical and spiritual rather than mere analytical or speculative. Nature of reality is concerned with the idea that absolute, the ultimate or the absolute, the principle is regarded as Brahm in Vedanta, Purush in Sankhya, and Paramatma in Yoga, and Shunyata in Buddhism. So this is the multidimensional perception of the ultimate truth. That's why the plurality is one of the very important characteristics. And then epistemic priority regarding the knowledge. The visible universe, that is the Vyavhar Satya, is considered a manifestation or reflection of a higher metaphysical truth. For example, Advait Vedanta asserts that Brahma alone is real, Brahm Satyam Jagat Mithya, and realizing this truth is liberation. If you just wish to take a reference, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, all this world is indeed Brahma, the Chandogya Upanishad says. What is the educational implication of this particular characteristic? True education aims at self-realization and inner enlightenment, not mere forming or information gathering. Realization through direct experience. This is another characteristic of Indian philosophy, or it is based on the Anubhav. Core idea is true knowledge in Indian philosophy is realized knowledge, that is Anubhuti or experience, not intellectual abstraction. Anubhav versus conceptual knowing, rational knowledge, Gyan is preparatory, realization, Anubhav is transformative and liberating. What are the modes of knowledge? While pramanas, valid means of knowledge such as perception and inference are accepted, direct spiritual experience is supreme. So, Nyaya philosophy just propounds this principle of six pramans, but different schools of philosophy adopt according to their convenience. Charvak believes only in one praman, that is pratyaksh, and Nyaya philosophy believes in all the six pramans. Accordingly, Vedanta also believes in some of the pramanas. For example, the meditative realization of unity between Atma and Brahma through yoga or Vedanta. References from the Yoga Sutra and philosophical note may include knowledge culminates not in dialectic but in vision, that is darshana. Darshana means to realize, by which ultimate reality is seen. In the very first lecture we have discussed it. This is a term denoting both insight and illumination. Then another characteristic of Indian philosophy, unity of the individual and the universal self, that is Atma, Brahma, identity. Philosophical premise, Indian thought sees no absolute dualism between the individual soul, Atma, and cosmic reality, that is Brahma. Monistic outlook is also there. Advaita Vedanta articulates the doctrine of non-dualism, that the ultimate reality is one without a second. The implication is self-realization. It means realizing this essential oneness. Ignorance, avidya, creates the illusion of separateness. So, for example, the realization tattvatvamasi, thou that thou art, means you are existing, it dissolves the subject-object duality. References from the Chandogya Upanishads, that is teaching of Uddalaka to the Shvetketu. We have discussed in the Upanishadic lecture that Uddalaka Aruni and Shvetketu was his son, and he was teaching the first principle of this word, means he just took the example of the Nyaya Grotha tree, where Shvetketu was convinced that out of this nothing, this great tree is existing. So, in that way, the realization of Tattvam Asi was explained. Then philosophical value of this particular characteristic is that this unity establishes a metaphysical basis for universal brotherhood and moral equality. Because if you believe in the unity of God, then you will believe in the unity of the human creation, the divine creation of human being. Then you will not discriminate one person from another. On what basis you will discriminate? Because they come from the same source. So that is the beauty of Indian philosophy, that the principles of unity of God. Ethical and moral foundation, dharma as core element. Ethical basis is philosophy in India is inseparable from dharma, the principle of righteousness, order and moral harmony. That's a very important aspect, that dharma is not a religion in Western sense. Dharma depicts in various multidimensional ways. Sometimes it is the natural order, that is the rit or the naitikta or ethical order of the cosmos upon which this entire universe works, or it is the essence, or it is the righteousness or the duty or the obligations. In multidimensional ways, dharma is described or interpreted. The purpose of dharma is every philosophical system ultimately aims at ethical perfection and purification of the mind. Broader meaning of dharma is not mere duty but the cosmic order that sustains the moral and spiritual life of humanity. Its implication in education, therefore, is viewed as character formation based on ethical awareness. For example, the Bhagavad Gita presents Nishkam Karma or the Karma Yoga, selfless action, as the path to moral and spiritual growth. And then another characteristic is belief in the law of karma and rebirth. That's another very important characteristic of Indian philosophy. And in the very beginning, I just mentioned or I forgot to mention that Indian philosophy's peculiar characteristic that it begins with the sorrow, because there is all around sorrow, dukhvad. That was the concept given by Lord Buddha. And it ends with the bliss, that is the happiness, anandvad, sachidanand. So, we also discussed while discussing in the Taittiriya Upanishad the five koshas, Panch Mahakoshas, that it starts with the uh, 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 in the very beginning, you see that Pranmay Kosh was there, or starting from Pranmay Kosh or Annamay Kosh, Pranmay Kosh, then Manomay Kosh, then Vigyanmay Kosh, and ultimately we reach to the Anandmay Kosh. So it begins with the basic problems of life, where we just experience the sorrow or dukkha because we find the reasons, that is Trishna or the greed, as Lord Buddha says. And ultimately, when we overcome all these hurdles, we reach to the bliss, that is the final happiness, that is the Anandvad. So, this is also one of the peculiar characteristics of Indian philosophy, that it starts with sorrow, dukkvad, and it ends in the bliss, Anandvad. So, here comes the law of karma and rebirth. Nature of causation, every action leaves an impression, that is sanskar, on the soul, influencing future births and circumstances. There are three types of karmas are there, and it believes, Indian philosophy believes, that man suffers because of the karmas of the previous birth. There are three types of karmas: sanchit, prarabdha, and sanchayman. We have already discussed it. Sanchiv, whatever is already done, and prarabdh, whatever is already done, that is sanchit, that is stored now, and you are not materializing the fruits of those karmas. But prarabdha karmas are that whatever karma you have already done in the past, you are now experiencing the fruits of those karmas, that is the prarabdha karma, that is destiny. And sanchyaman, whatever you are doing at present, but in some future date, you will experience or you will materialize the results or the fruits of these karmas. So here lies the system of this. The future is in your hand. The destiny is in your hand. That is the mystery of this aspect of karma siddhant. That past is not in your hand. Whatever you have done, present is deciding whatever shape of your future would be. So that is the very mystical aspect of Indian philosophy, I would like to say. The reference is there in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishads: as a man acts and as he behaves, so he becomes. That's a very mystical aspect. That many people say that everything depends on your takdir or kismat. And Indian philosophy also says, yes, there is takdir, there is kismat, but future is in your hand. The future means kismat. Your fate is in your hand. That depends on your karma, what you do at present. So, philosophical significance is this: moral causation introduces a deep ethical responsibility and self-determination in human conduct, and moral education aims to purify the will and align action with dharma. Another characteristic is goal of human life, that is liberation, moksha or nirvana. Ultimate aim, the supreme end of all Indian philosophical system is moksha, liberation from ignorance, that is avidya, bondage, that is bandhan, and the cycle of birth and death, sansara. So different philosophical schools describe the different factors of bondages. Like in Jainism, four kashayas are there: krodh, man, maya, and lobha, and the greed. And in Vedanta philosophy, you also see the various factors that hamper the human growth. And so many ways are also there. Ashtangic Marg is there, Ashtanga Yoga is also there. Lord Krishna also suggests the Gyan Marga, path of knowledge, Karma Marga, path of right action, and the Bhakti Marga, path of devotion. For example, in Buddhism, liberation, nirvana, is cessation of craving. In Vedanta, it is realization of one's unity with Brahma. Kathopanishad says when all desires are destroyed, the moral becomes immortal. And to philosophical note, moksha represents the convergence of metaphysical realization and ethical perfection. Then another characteristics: acceptance of pluralism and tolerance, that is synthesis. Pluralistic understanding means Indian philosophy acknowledges the multiplicity of viewpoints. Anekantvad in Jainism, and sometimes it is also called the Syadvad, the multidimensional perceptions, relativity of knowledge, and the diversity of path, that is marga, leading to the truth. For example, the coexistence of 6 orthodox Astika schools and 3 heterodox Nastika schools. However, they are contradictory to each other in their principles and sources and the methods of identifying the truth, but they are integrated, they are collaborative. These systems demonstrates a culture of intellectual freedom and dialogue. Rigveda gives the reference Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is one, the wise call it by different names. So that is why if there is only one truth, you can explore that one truth by the different ways. So the Indian philosophy is like a big ocean where all the rivers are like the different schools of philosophy. All rivers meet the same ocean, and that is Brahm, or that is the ultimate reality. This is the symbolical meaning of this plurality. Philosophical consequence of this principle is truth is not monopolized but interpreted through various perspectives, logical, spiritual, and ethical. And modern relevance of this particular characteristic is the spirit of synthesis promotes interfaith dialogue and cultural harmony. And we see the examples in medieval India. Akbar establishes the Ibadat Khana, and also in ancient India, in Vihars, in Nalanda University was the center of interfaith dialogues and discussions. Students from far off places, from China and Malaya, Sumatra, Java and Indonesia, modern Indonesia, they used to reach ancient universities like Nalanda and Takshila, and in some later period, the Vikramshila, and they used to discuss the different aspects of different schools of philosophy in India in a pluralistic way. So tolerance was there, interfaith dialogues were there, that continued up to the medieval period also. And we find in Tulsidas also wrote in Ramcharitmanas, Hari Anant Hari Katha Ananta Kahahi Sunahi Bahuvidhi Sapsanta. So truth is one, God is one, ultimate reality is one, and the various saints and seers and rishis, they describe in the multiple ways. Like a diamond has a multiple rays in all the directions, and that way that reality may be expressed in the multiple ways. That's the inner aspects of Indian philosophy, this is the plurality. Then cyclical view of time and cosmic process. Indian philosophy is not just confined to this world, unlike Western philosophy. Rather, it talks about the larger than life aspects. We have discussed in the Epikas, Ramayana and Mahabharata lectures, that these books also talk about the larger than life figures and those aspects of supernatural elements. So Indian philosophy is also concerned with even hereafter and what will happen after death. So it considers time is not as a linear process, rather it's a cyclical way. It is just like a chakra. Cosmological vision, Indian philosophy conceives time, that is the Kal, as cyclical. The universe evolves, dissolves, and re-emerges in endless rhythm. It is like a continuous cycle. For example, the concept of Yuga, Satyug, Treta, Dwapar, or Kali Yuga, and cosmic cycles, that is Mahayugas. Theological parallels are Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, creation, preservation, and dissolution are cosmic processes governed by divine will. And even in our religious philosophy, you see that the symbols of the generator, organizer, and destroyer are the trinity of three goddess, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Brahma is the generator of this entire cosmos, who has created it, the entire cosmos and the universe. And Vishnu is the nourisher, who is the organizer, who organizes the life on this earth. And Lord Shiva is the destroyer. So here comes the acronym God, God. So this acronym also depicts the three functions of the Trinity of God. They are one, but they are divided on the basis of their major functions, the task what they perform. That is the cyclical view of time and cosmic process. Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavad Puran and Manusmriti also elaborate cosmic periodicity. Then philosophical interpretation would say, unlike the linear programs models of Western thought, Indian philosophy emphasizes eternal recurrence and cosmic continuity. Educational reflection would say that it encourages ecological and moral awareness of life's continuity and interdependence. So further, the last characteristic of Indian philosophy, it is a way of life, integration of knowledge and conduct, practical orientation, existentiality lived, a discipline for self-cultivation and realization, not a mere intellectual exercise. Moral and spiritual practices are there. ethical restraints, that is the yam, niyama, that is observances, dhyana, that is meditation in Ashtanga Yoga. For example, Buddha suggests the Ashtangic mark, Pragya Skand, Shil Skand, we have all discussed it, and Samadhi Skand. And Jain philosophy suggests the Triratna, Samyak Shraddha, Samyak Gyan, Samyak Vishwa, Samyak Charitra. And Yoga philosophy suggests the Ashtang, Yogasana, the body postures, and Vedanta suggests the Sadhan Chatushtay, where a student or seeker of knowledge has to prepare himself before the knowledge acquisition. And then philosophical essence of this particular characteristic is knowledge must transform consciousness and conduct into applied form. Educational message would be true education should integrate intellectual, moral and spiritual growth, nurturing the whole human being. Panch Mahakosha holistic view also talks about, we have just discussed it, from Annamay to Anandamay Kosh. So these are the on your screen certain aspects of Indian philosophy regarding the nature. It is spiritual and ethical, aims at self-realization, and Western philosophy intellectual and analytical, seeks logical explanation. If we just put on a scale that what are the major differences between Indian and Western philosophy. Regarding the goal, we see moksha is the ultimate goal of Indian philosophy, that is liberation, and in Western philosophy, knowledge for its own sake. Regarding the method, intuitive and experiential in Indian philosophy, and in Western philosophy, rational and discursive reasoning. Relation with religion. Indian philosophy is deeply connected, philosophy grows within religion, and Western philosophy often independent or critical of religion. So, religion is the integral part of Indian philosophy, but Western philosophy discuss it in a critical way. Concept of, because in Indian philosophy, the religion doesn't mean the same implication as in Western philosophy. Here the dharma is another aspect. So that's why in that perspective, religion is not the same as Western philosophy is dealing with. Concept of reality, monistic or pluralistic, but always spiritual. But in Western philosophy, mostly materialistic or dualistic. Regarding ethical concerns, philosophy guides conduct and righteousness in Indian way, that is called dharma. And in Western way, ethics is often treated as a separate discipline. Regarding views of self, Indian philosophy believes in immortal Atma, and Western philosophy self often understood psychologically or biological. And last point is the time and cosmos. Indian philosophy just takes into consideration the birth, death and rebirth in a cyclical view of time in a circular way, but Western philosophy takes linear view of time and creation. And unity in diversity, of course, ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti, truth is one and multidimensional perceptions are there. And in Western philosophy, often competitive or exclusive schools. So, some philosophical reflections are also there. You may see on your screen, na iti, the Vakya statement is translates to not this, not this. The Upanishad statements, this self is that which has been described as not this, not this. So, in that way you reach to the Brahma by negating everything which is not Brahma. In Rambha and Shuk Samvad, this is also a very famous poem from Sanskrit literature where you see that the atmosphere of dialogues from one place to another place, where one Apsara Rambha is in dialogue with the Shuka, one of the saints, and Rambha or the Apsara is describing the beauty, the physical beauty or the mundane life or the earthly beauty, and the Shuka or the sage is describing the philosophical aspect. So, for example, one of the couplets from that Sanskrit literature is Tirthe Tirthe Nirmalam Brahma Vrandam Vrande Vrande Tattva Chintanuvada Vade Vade Jayate Tattva Bodha और बोधे बोधे भासते चंद्रचूड़ा. प्रत्येक तीर्थ पर निर्मल ब्राह्मणों का संघ है, प्रत्येक संघ में तत्व चिंतन संवाद चल रहा है, संवाद से सत्य का बोध हो रहा है, बोध में जिनकी जटाओं में चंद्र है उनका यानी भगवान शिव का आभास होता है. So this is the scenario what that Sanskrit literature just presents before you a pictographic image of the idea of ancient Indian environment of debate and discussions and like that. Then again, Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti, ano badra kratvayantu vishvata, may auspicious thoughts come to us from all over the world. And Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the very famous adage from Indian philosophy, they are all the reflections of Indian philosophy. And then Mahavakyas, Pragyanam Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma, and Tattvatvam Asi, Aham Brahmasmi. So due to the paucity of time, we are not going into the deeper aspects of these things, because these are the philosophical reflections that are eternal, and they are the real uh, or reflections or real representations of Indian intellectualism or knowledge traditions. Then some other philosophical reflections we have already discussed in the Upanishad lectures. Sahna vavatu, sahna bhunaktu, sahaviryam karvavahe, tejas vinavadit mastu ma vidishavahe. This was the prayer which was to be recited at the time of Samavartan Sanskar, and this depicts the beautiful relation between teacher and guru and shishya. And nowhere we find such beautiful reflections, beautiful instance of the Guru Shishya Parampara. So, to conclude, Indian philosophy is a quest for ultimate truth that unites intellectual inquiry with spiritual realization. It harmonizes metaphysics, ethics, and religion into an integrated vision of life. It begins with pessimism and dukkvad, but ends in bliss, that is Anandvad. The emphasis is on realizing truth through inner experience and disciplined living, a blend of knowledge, wisdom, and its application. Its universality and tolerance reflect deep faith in the multiplicity of paths leading to the same truth. So these are some suggested reading on your screen. You may have a look through these books. Now I am leaving you with the beautiful words. If there are no ups and downs in our life, it means we are dead. Thank you very much for joining. God bless you. Take care. See you in the next lecture.